What is good? We're back. We got Austin Abbott on the mics with us. We're going to do a redraft of the top 24 rookie Superflex tight end premium. So the season is pretty much come and gone. You have your fantasy playoffs. Hopefully you're doing well in those. You know, Austin is doing so good. He's not wearing shirts anymore, apparently. So he's just going, he's going straight tank top. Austin, what's good, man? You ready to do this?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Casey, you know, we always have so much fun diving into the rookie classes every off season, and it's almost bittersweet. It's like it comes to an end, and it's like, what, we just have to pivot off them and never talk about them again. It's like, no, man, like I still want to yap about these dudes. So when you hit me up and told me the topic for this episode, I got pretty excited. I was like, this is definitely going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely doesn't have pants on, so you know. All right, let's get it rolling. I'm gonna try to keep it short on the top guys. We're gonna try to find maybe, you know, focus in on guys like what we're doing with Bucky and Ladd and Penix and Xavier Worthy and Tyrone Tracy and where their injury to Jonathan Brooks has put them. So I'm gonna kind of go through the top guys. I think everyone feels at least some type of way about these like top 8 or 9 guys that we know that they're most likely pretty good and people are excited about them. So the first 5 guys, and I'd probably put those guys in a tier right there, right? Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and Brock Bowers, right? I think those guys for me are in a tier by themselves, the first 5 guys. How does your tier 1 kind of shake out here, Austin?
Yeah, so I actually have 3 players in tier 1. It's okay. Malik Neighbors, it's Jaden Daniels, and it's Brock Bowers. And then tier 2, just it's very, very close. Just feel like it's not quite there. I'll run through my 4 players. Casey, 104, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. 105, Brian Thomas Jr.
Woo!
I love BTJ, man. I am all in. I could have put him over Marv. I would not have had a problem with that. Bo Nix is at the 106, and Caleb Williams is at the 107. That's the end of tier 2 for me.
No Drake May?
No, Drake May is close, man. He's not quite there, though.
All right. So for me, I kept it pretty simple. I just went kind of 2 tiers with these guys for the most part. I got Drake May, Bo Nix. I got Odunze still in there, and I got Brian Thomas. Listen, I'm not saying that when you're in a startup and that you need to trade those guys straight up for Odunze. If you could, that'd be great. But when you're in a startup, those guys' value is probably going to be a little higher than what Odunze. I'm not saying that you have to take him right there. I'm just saying I think very highly of Odunze, right? We just had an episode we did, JSN. We knew the trajectory of the path could sort of be JSN-ish. JSN doing very well. Odunze's had a really nice rookie season. It hasn't been consistent, but we kind of knew that it wouldn't be super consistent. But what you're seeing is him being able to put up big time numbers in different situations, and he's done that. I like what you're seeing when you turn on the tape. You could see that he's open a lot. When the tape bros will tell you that he's open a lot. So I think Odunze and Caleb Williams are going to be a great match moving forward. Now, is Brian Thomas more valuable in the Dynasty community right now than Odunze? 100%. Is Bo Nix and Drake May more valuable than Odunze in the Dynasty community? 100%. I'm keeping him here. Not a whole lot of movement for me. I love Odunze, so I'm keeping him there. Let me hear what you got here to round out those next 5 through 10 or whatever you got.
Yeah, so I'll rip through tier 3 and tier 4. It wraps up basically end of round 1. 107, I have Drake May, so he just misses tier 2. I like Drake May a lot. I don't think he's quite there yet, and he can absolutely get there. Got to get a better offensive line. A lot of things are inevitably going to work in his favor, I believe, this offseason, as long as New England's relatively competent in the NFL draft. After Drake May, at the 108, Casey, maybe I'm a little too bullish. Maybe I've been hanging out with you a little too much. I have Ladd McConkey, man. Really like Ladd. He looks like a veteran, right? We knew he could separate. We knew that he was shifty. We knew that he could play. He's exceeding our expectations. So shout out to Ladd, man, getting the job done. Odunze
holding it down for the Whites.
Yeah. Odunze is up next at the 109. Now I'm struggling here. I kind of wanted to go Rome, but I was like, look, Ladd's just getting it done, man. He looks like everything we wanted. And I just, shout out to Ladd, dude. Just a baller. Again, 109 Rome starting to turn up a little bit. Think he had 2 touchdowns last week. Like you said, could have had a 2-point conversion. Tough situation, obviously, with 2 legitimate wide receivers in front of him. This is kind of what we expected, what we anticipated. And then the 110, Bucky Irving. How do you feel about that? Too early for Bucky?
No, I mean this is kind of is that the end of your tier?
That is the end of tier 3. I could rip through tier 4 too and wrap up round 1
Sure.
actually real quick. Tier 4, Michael Penix Jr. at the 111. Man, we are getting close. I don't know when it is, but and I don't want to kick Kirk Cousins while he's down. I don't want to say his career's over, right? He's got what, 7 interceptions,
Like
no touchdowns. Yeah, I know, right? I'm coming off. Sorry, Kirk. I know he's a big fan of the pod, but he's just he's been struggling. That is to put it politely. He's been struggling, and I do think that Kirk's going to figure it out. I think he's going to get better, but Minnesota needs to win games, man. They brought him in to win games. They brought Kirk in to elevate the team. He's doing the exact opposite of that, right? And you don't spend that type of draft capital on a quarterback to just bench him for eternity, unless you're Jordan Love, and then he even turned out pretty good too, huh? So
yeah,
I'm really in on Michael Penix Jr. I think he's a screaming buy low in Dynasty. I don't know how much longer you have until that window shuts, but I'm going to move on. The final 2 players in tier 4 for me: 112, Tyrone Tracy Jr. Looks like he's really got a future. I don't think he's a sell high. I don't think it's just one and done. I think he's got a real future for the New York Giants, right? There's no legitimate threat. He's also 25 years old. I know, a little bit older. My favorite thing about him, I've mentioned this countless times, Tyrone Tracy Jr., his second year of playing the running back position, it tells me that it really impresses me that he's this good at the position after just 2 years, right? A lot of these running backs have been playing since, Pee-wee, since high school, the collegiate level. They got a handful of years under their belt, or more than that, a decade. And Tracy, in year 2, producing like this, yeah, man, he's really like that. He's good. Final player at tier 4 for me, 201, Xavier Worthy. I like what I'm seeing from Worthy lately. I think it's 5 consecutive games now that he's improved in targets. You can fact check me on that. Might be 4, 5 games. He's starting to see much more of the volume, right? Higher snap percentage. Sure, Rice is out, and I know Rashi inevitably will come back next year. Yes, there seems like a suspension that's looming, but Xavier Worthy, right? He's getting the job done lately. He's producing. So Casey.
Yeah, no, I want to take it back to the lads and the Buckies, and you just hit Tracy, and so I think this is kind of the group that I think they've pretty much everybody you've mentioned so far has, for the most part, I believe, separated from kind of all the rest of the guys left, right? And if Jonathan Brooks maybe didn't get injured, I think he would be in here, regardless of kind of what he's done so far on the field. We kind of knew what it was, but again, we're injured again, so we'll see kind of where he slots in, if at all, in the top 24 for you. But so would you trade Bucky Irving for Ladd McConkey, or would you rather have Ladd?
So they're in the same tier for me. They're both in tier 3. I think it really just comes
kind of
down
different.
To right what you need. If you're perfectly balanced in a perfect world, give me Ladd. It's really close, but give me Ladd.
Same. I agree. So I probably put Ladd 1 spot higher than Bucky, but this would be the starting of my tier 3, Ladd and Bucky.
Hey guys, a quick reminder to head over to patreon.com/the FF Dynasty to sign up for a free membership to get access to the free Discord channel. Or hit your boys with the $5 holler and get access to extra shows, mock drafts, roster reviews, ADP, and player pages. All for your pleasure.
I'm putting Penix in there. Just, I don't think the price on Penix has come down at all, because we're seeing the Falcons be, offense and what the parts and pieces are around there and the sum of the parts. And Kirk is just being looked down upon because he's not bringing the sum of the parts to where we think they should be. And, the hope is a hell of a drug, is that Michael Penix will take it there. And we've only seen it in short bursts here, but I loved Michael Penix. I think he's just as good as all those other quarterbacks that were, that we've talked about already. I can't quite rank them up with those guys because we haven't seen a single bit of it. But I'm putting Ladd, Bucky, and Penix in here. Would you rather have Penix or Bucky Irving? Let's say you hit gold on Bucky. Would you swap out Bucky to go get Penix?
We could look back a year from today, and I could look like the biggest idiot for taking Bucky over Penix, right? I fully get that. Obviously we're talking super flex. Right now, it feels like you should go Bucky right now, right? That's I think consensus would agree with me on that. Short answer is give me Bucky, but I don't necessarily love it, and I'm well aware that I could flip in just a few months.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty even, and it's hard to, but because of we're so in the middle of what Bucky's doing.
Yeah,
and Bucky obviously being hurt right now kind of stinks. Hopefully we can get him back on the field. Back tightness kind of sucks. It's kind of unpredictable, and it's hard to fix without rest. Essentially,
I think I'm just trying to win now with Bucky, man. Like if I was in a full blown rebuild, I probably take Penix here. So I get it. I think it just really comes down to what situation is your team in.
Yeah. So Penix over Xavier Worthy right now, I think, right? If I would swap you Xavier Worthy for Penix.
I have Penix 2 slots higher. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then Worthy or Tracy, if proposed that trade, which side would you want?
Again, they're back to back. Tracy's at the 112. I have Worthy at the 201. So give me Tracy.
Yeah. It's real. I don't know if I'm take locked there. I'm really having a hard time putting Tracy's box over Worthy's box. Obviously, we've seen way better performance from Tyrone Tracy from in your fantasy lineup. Like you can't put Xavier Worthy in your fantasy lineup unless you absolutely have to right now. And it has, like I said, I don't know if it was this show or the other one. It hasn't been absolutely awful because he will get a touchdown here and there, and he has been getting some increase in targets throughout the season. I do think that he'll continue to ascend. He's not just this bust of a receiver, and he was really fast. That's not just what he is. He can certainly do other things. There's been a couple of spots where he could even have more on the season. He just, his spatial awareness wasn't exactly where it needed to be, maybe, and the feet weren't getting in, and yada yada yada. But I think I'm still leaning Xavier Worthy there over Tracy. Does it matter that Tracy's 25 already and just started playing running back as far as hey, he doesn't have a lot of miles on him. So are you as concerned with, a 25-year-old running back at that point? Probably not, right? I don't know. But Tracy looks the part, and the Giants are going to be in position to make some moves here. So I agree with you. I don't know that I'm desperately selling Tracy. If I could upgrade to a more sure thing running back, I might do that, but I'm not just selling Tracy for like a 2, right? I'm not, I feel obviously there's a lot of different circumstances, right?
He just led the NFL or all running backs, I should say, in targets. Tyrone Tracy, that is 10 last week, right? Yeah. I know GameScript favored him heavily, but hey, he's on the Giants. GameScript is probably going to keep on favoring Tyrone Tracy Jr. to be like this check down merchant, right? And I'm not mad about it. Obviously, former wide receiver at Iowa, right? Transition to running back at Purdue. So
yeah, so my tier 3s probably be like Ladd, Bucky, Penix, and then I'd probably make another tier for Worthy and Tracy, because I don't think I would trade. I would rather have all of those guys than Tracy and Worthy. And maybe I'm wrong there, but that's kind of where I am. All right, let's go to the next group of guys, because I think this is kind of where it gets interesting. Again, like Keon Coleman, to me, these next couple of guys are probably Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, Jaylen McMillan. I think, finally had a game, but has been getting some reps. He's, those guys haven't necessarily crushed either. JJ McCarthy, who's hurt, but we're seeing what Sam Darnold can do. Where does he slot in here? Ricky Pearsall. And then, you got a bunch of backup running backs, but Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks. Okay. So let's talk about this group of guys and where Jonathan Brooks and McCarthy and Benson and where all these guys come in. Who's the next couple of guys for you? And how does this all puzzle piece together here through like that 15 through 22-ish range?
Yeah, so I got I'll read you tier 5 and 6 right here, Casey.
All
tier
right.
5, 202 for me. The 202 is JJ McCarthy. Now, this is obviously super flex. I know I stated that earlier. That is why I'm taking JJ here, right? I know that when you spend that immense draft capital talking about the Minnesota Vikings, right? I think he went 10th or 11th overall. They're telling us very clearly, he is the future. He is our guy. I don't know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold. This team looks awesome, right? And it's going to be really funny or also frustrating or however you want to interpret it when we look back a year from now and maybe they move on from Sam Darnold and JJ's the guy and maybe he doesn't look good. Like I'm jumping to a lot of conclusions here. I'm just saying like this is a realistic outcome, right? What's Minnesota do? Are they 10-2 right now? What's their record? They look like a wagon. right? That team looks like not just a contender or a pretender, rather. They look like a legitimate contender in the playoffs, like a team that I'm like, I don't really want to play them, to tell you the truth.
They're weird to me in that the Vikings, is that like, I don't know that like I don't feel like outwardly scared of like the Vikings in general, of like, but then like, you're watching them play all year and you're like, man, they're just fucking good all around, man. Maybe that's me on that one.
I apologize. They're 11-2, not 10-2.
Yeah.
And they're playing the Bears this week. Probably going to be 12-2. I mean, 12-2, man. You don't get there on accident. So, but getting back on track, JJ McCarthy kind of felt appropriate here, and I was never infatuated. I was never really. I was lower than consensus on JJ McCarthy. I've always been vocal regarding that, and I probably still am. But here I am taking JJ at 202, 203. Xavier Legette. This tier is where there's without question a drop off. I don't feel nearly as good about these players. Like when we were talking about Penix, we're talking about Tracy Worthy. Like those are players that we've seen production from 2 of those 3 players already, and we've seen that they can be a difference maker. I think that they could all have bright futures, especially Penix. Now at this tier 5 for me, between JJ McCarthy, Xavier Legette, and spoiler Keon Coleman, these are guys that I'm much more worried about. These are guys that, while they are gifted, I don't put nearly as much stock into them. I almost view them as if they had a few games where they popped, more of sell highs, right? Never loved Keon. Legette, man, so frustrating. He drops that game-winning touchdown against, or could have been a game-winning touchdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. Bryce is really, really doing a good job lately. I feel like every time they have a chance for a game-winning drive, he's just delivering. And Leggett's got to make that play, but it's not the end of his career by any means. Just you got to catch that ball, got to come down with it. It was a dime by Bryce.
Yeah, no, I feel you. This is a tricky part of this exercise here, right? I think I like Keon, but I don't think that I'm not sure that I have him in that Tyrone Tracy, Xavier Worthy tier for me. I think he might be a step down. I think I would rather have those guys than Keon still, but he would be one that's really, really teetering. And by the end of the season, when he comes back and maybe reminds me here, that I could see that stepping up, and Legette kind of the same way right there, as well as JJ McCarthy. All those guys could be in this tier, but for now, I think JJ might have to wait, push him down a little bit. It's super flex. Odd that you're talking about super flex. In the last operation we did, you didn't even care that you need. I don't even think you knew we needed a quarterback. But now it's JJ McCarthy. So, and then Jaylen McMillan for me it could be hanging around in here. I believe in the talent of him that much, and we just haven't been able to. We haven't seen it. He's getting a lot of snap percentage, but not getting a lot of work. This past week we saw it, so maybe we can see a little something extra. Where does Trey Benson come in here? Because I feel like I kind of have him in this tier. Like I wouldn't mind having Trey Benson for Keon Coleman or Legette, or I like Coleman and I like Legette a decent amount, but Pearsall, McMillan, and then Jonathan Brooks. Where do Trey Benson, Brooks, McMillan, Pierce? Who are some of the next guys that you have? Mainly, where is Trey Benson and Brooks falling for you?
Yeah, and I'll really quickly run through tier 6 and tier 7 for me, and then we can talk about those players individually. 205, Braylon Allen. 206, Jaylen McMillan. And man, I felt like Jaylen McMillan should have been a tier higher, because to tell you the truth, I seriously think there's a real chance a year from today we like Jaylen McMillan more than Keon, more than Xavier Legette. I don't know if he's going to quite get into like the Xavier Worthy, like that type of tier, right? Like Tyrone Tracy, but I really think Jaylen McMillan's a good player, man. He's probably one of the guys I feel most potent about this late. Ricky Pearsall, 207, myself, obviously. 208, man. Dead serious. I have Isaac Guerendo here. I
like it. That's a good pick.
Too bullish on Isaac Guerendo. I know he got banged up, but man, we see 27 fantasy points in 3 quarters when he finally gets a chance to produce. He just keeps getting the job done when he has an opportunity this season in the very few chances he's gotten. He looks good, man. I liked him out of Louisville. Final tier 7. I have 209. I have Ray Davis. I have 210 Theo Johnson, 211 Adonai Mitchell, 212 Ben Sinnott, 301 Casey. Wrap it up. The 25th player is Trey Benson. And if I had to add one more, it would seriously be Jonathan Brooks. I didn't feel comfortable putting Jonathan Brooks in front of someone like Braylon Allen, someone like Jaylen McMillan. It's going to be a while, man. I support buying him, but I don't know, maybe 2/3 or a third. Like I don't even want to pay a second for Brooks, man. I think you might even be able to get him cheaper. Just play the really, really long waiting game with him. Like that's the reality of it. So
no, I like it. I feel you. Brooks is probably going to be right around the end of this top 24 because I think the talent's there, and I think Chuba's going to allow him to take his time getting back. This really sucks. Still think that he can come in here and kind of having a Dobbins-esque start to the career, and Dobbins has had but still pretty young, got some good juice. So we're going to push Brooks down. We'll see where he ends up, but I'm sticking with Trey Benson here. I'm not going Garendo only because I think Mason's a restricted free agent and CMC will be back. And I think she's just going to end up being the third there again next year. And I don't know where Elijah Mitchell's going to, kind of slide in there if he comes back, or I don't remember if he's a free agent or a restricted free agent, but all of a sudden, he could be the third guy again really quickly. So I don't feel super confident. He's a very good player and I want him on my team. Unfortunately, he got hurt this week. You're not even going to be able to see him again. Great start, his first career start, and could have maybe, if he ended the season, I think jockeyed for position. But it was kind of telling to me that Mason seemed to be healthy and they were going to go right back to Mason, and then he was injured. So I just feel like that pecking order is going to be a little difficult for me to have Garendo quite in the top 24, but I mean, he's got to be sitting right outside of it. So I think it's a really good call. I'm going Benson still in this tier, just because I like the talent. We haven't seen anything from him. Obviously they signed up Connor, but he's been banged up, and we'll kind of see what I don't know where the details are, and maybe they're giving him some good money. Connor's very good. But I do think at some point Trey Benson gets a role. I really like Trey Benson's ability and play style. I think he can kind of come in there and eventually really carve out a role and be their bell cow. Then I'm going to go Jaylen McMillan. I got no problem having him in there. So probably be McMillan and Trey Benson, maybe rounding out my tier 5, and then probably coming back with at the end here with Ricky Pearsall. I'm going Jatavion Sanders, Ben Sinnott. I'll take Jalen Polk, and I'm going to go Theo Johnson in there, giving a little love to old Theo. And then I'll slot Brooks in probably right somewhere around underneath those guys, right around Burton and A.D. Mitchell. Look, A.D. Mitchell could be higher in this. I think he's got the juice to be higher. They don't have the strongest quarterback play to support 3 guys, and Downs is certainly a dude, and Pittman's certainly a dude. And we've seen Adonai have some drops and some big spots where they really needed it, and he could have really been, propping his value up, and he's been kind of maybe just keeping his value depleted there. So he doesn't quite make it up in there. But I think Jalen Polk's going to be just fine moving forward. And I like its tight end premium. I like JT Sanders. Obviously, Sinnott didn't see the field all that much this year, and we'll see what happens with, Zach Ertz kind of moving forward. But the willingness to target the tight end, and we saw this almost same thing play out. And I know it probably doesn't really matter, but we saw this same scenario play out with Kingsbury and Ertz with McBride in Arizona. And I'm not saying that Sinnott is McBride by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he can be a very versatile key cog in the wheel for their offense moving forward. And you got to be excited. It's going to come to the point of where you want to have anything tied to Jaden Daniels, right? So that's kind of where I'm at here. So I think tier 5 for me to clear it up was kind of Keon, Xavier, Leggett. I'm going to go JJ McCarthy, Jaylen McMillan, and I'm going to throw Trey Benson in there. I'm sure people probably won't love it, but I'm sticking with my guy there. It's pretty late in this draft, and we're starting to be void of guys that you love, and I'm just betting on the talent there from Trey Benson. Then I would say Ricky Pearsall, Jatavion Sanders, Sinnott, Polk, Theo Johnson, and then Jonathan Brooks. would kind of round me out to around 26 there. Those would be the next couple of guys. Now, you had Braylon Allen in there. For me, I look at all the rest of these, like Jalen Wright, who hasn't gotten a shot yet, really, and I think he will. Marshawn Lloyd, we haven't seen. Blake Corum, we haven't seen. Isaiah Davis has even looked good. So Ray Davis has looked good. So all these backup running backs, they'd probably slot in sometime after all these guys because they need an injury to get in. And I know I have Trey Benson up there, and I know some of those guys have had better starts to Trey Benson. I think Trey Benson has an opportunity to be the guy before any of those guys. Potentially, I know Connor just signed his deal, but things happen and deals are hollow, and people can move on pretty quickly from things. But so we'll see what happens. I'm keeping Trey Benson up there, but that's kind of what how I'm dealing with all the backup running backs. Some other guys that I kind of like as ancillary pieces. I like Jordan Whittington a good bit. I like Malik Washington still a good bit. Troy Franklin showing a little bit of life here. But Malik Washington, you saw him pretty much win that Dolphins game for him in this last, you kind of seeing what he can do with the ball in his hands. It's not going to be that much longer until I think he's going to be at least their third guy out there. And then, how long does Tyreek stay around? I think Malik Washington's got so much juice, awesome with the ball in his hands. So I think he'll get a legitimate shot at some point. I still like Cowing a good bit. And like I said, Troy Franklin's been showing some life. And then as far as A.D. Mitchell's, Burtons, and Bakers of the world, I think we just need to let them see if they can get a shot and see what they can do with it, right? They all have crazy talent, and those were a bunch of the swings we like to take. But for now, not a whole lot of movement from those guys for me. Still a lot of talent. We just got to see it kind of come to fruition, and we haven't quite gotten to see that yet. So anything else that you would like to comment on, or anything that I said, or where you're at with some of these other guys, Austin?
Pour one out for Jonathan Brooks, man. I'm so frustrated, man. I'm so disappointed. We see him go from like 2 touches to 9 touches, and I'm like, all right, we got the trend, right? He looks like he could, I'm not going to say overtake Chuba, but Chuba just got that big contract. It's just like, God damn, man, literally the worst outcome. Just unfortunate. Just wishing him the best, man, because realistically, throw this year away, probably throw next year away, right? I mean, we're looking into 2026 now, and I just want to give a shout out to Jonathan Brooks, man. I hope him a speedy recovery. I wish him the best, and I hope he proves everybody wrong one day.
Yeah, and if you're a Brees owner, then I would prioritize Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis higher on this list. If you're a Kyron owner, then I would put Kyron higher, or a Corum higher up on this list. If you're a James Cook owner, then I'd put Ray Davis higher up on this list, right? Some people are like, I don't want to own the handcuff. Fuck that. In Dynasty, I want to own the handcuff. I want to, especially if it's a good handcuff, I want to own that shit. I don't necessarily have to have them to draft them, but if, I would prioritize them a little bit more, especially if I think that they're good players. Marshawn Lloyd, if I have Jacobs, I think all those guys could move up even higher and slot in for me and be a little bit more of a priority if I owned that player, if we were just talking about a startup draft kind of situation. So.
Yeah, man. This now last thing, like, remember how much hate this running back class got? And I mean, you got a lot of day 2, a lot of day 3 running backs that are definitely crushing their ADP. That's for sure. So,
yeah, I mean, Bucky Irving being the number 1 back in this class so far was on nobody's card anywhere. Liked him, but can't take that much credit, right?
Yeah.
Tracy was a lot of fun, and he looks good. And hopefully we could see Trey Benson. We thought Brooks would be there, but some other fun running backs that I think if they get a chance could be very good as well. So still like them, just bump down a little bit. So, all right, we're going to wrap this one up. He's Austin Abbott, looking good in that tank top, brother. Keep doing what you're doing. You can catch him on Twitter at Austin Abbott FF, 2 B's, 2 T's, 2 F's. You can catch us at the FF Dynasty. You can sign up for the Patreon, $5 holler, get you an extra episode every week. We're going to be doing drafts. It's going to get you the ADP. It's going to get you all sorts of good, fun stuff. There's a free one too. You can sign up for that. Make sure you hit us with the 5-star review. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube so you get all this Dynasty content throughout the off season, because it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Me and Austin were just talking like, fantasy playoffs are happening, but man, it's exciting. It's that time where you're excited about the rookies. By May, you're going to be like, I'm so sick of these rookies. Can we talk about something else, please, God? But right now you're jazzed to get a hold of these rookies and, let your fantasy playoffs, kind of do what they're going to do. Hopefully you win some money, but we're going to start talking about these rookies more and more. So keep it locked and loaded. Austin. Peace. Peace.
Let's get the FF out of here, brother.
There we go. There we go. All right. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.